Jeff, it's a pleasure to have you here. We cannot ignore the fact that Priceline took off from where it did and where it is now. I think you have shared this many number of times, but I have to still ask you, what is the gist, the genesis of when you started Priceline? Because you earlier in your speech you said that you have to be around the audience, around your potential customers, their needs, their requirements. That's where you have to learn, be among them. And you said that's where you had to spend the time to learn about their ideas. So if you can share with some of those anecdotes with us too.
Sure. I think that what we did was do a good job of the mistake people make is they try to design a solution in their conference room. That's where you work, your office. So naturally, when you have an idea, you sit in your office and work on it. What I think we did a really good job of was getting out of the office, going out to where the customer was. As an example, was one day I had a team of our people in a Walmart store, because that's a discount shopper at the lower end of the spectrum. And that's the customer that our products were targeting. So we went out and we just chatted with people in the field where the customer is and tried to get an understanding of how do we service them, what do they want, what will they pay for it, how will they use it, instead of guessing. So instead of designing a product from your conference room and pushing it out to the world, we went out to the world and let them design a product that we brought back into the conference room to build.
When you look at Priceline now and you look at the emerging economies, now that they're coming up, there's a lot more expendable income with people. How do you make this relevant, this particular product, to those countries who do not have, yet the total immersion of internet technology?
Sure. So it's two things. In our case, it has to be the immersion of internet technology, but it also has to be an economy that travels. And so countries that don't have that, we just simply don't waste our time and money pursuing them. And the important lesson of that for every entrepreneur is to build a profile of what the right market and the right customer looks like for you. Who is the best user for you? What do they look like? What do they earn? Where do they live? And then in your marketing efforts, do not waste time in places where the customer doesn't match the profile. So we got good at saying, and some people don't. They spend a lot of time going everywhere, giving a sales pitch and coming back and saying, well, all these people didn't even listen. Well, you never should have gone to them. You should have done enough research to know that's not going to be a good market. Let's not even waste our time.
One of the growing pain points for a big company like yours, I'm taking you back more than a decade after the 2001. The stock price was already lower single digits, and that's when people started panicking. What do we do? And I was myself, a significant owner of the stock. How do you come out of that when people are, especially your shareholders are looking up to you and saying, oh my goodness, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. But it rode back pretty.
Sure, it's over $800. It's $816 right now.
So it's unimaginable, right? During the times.
So, and here's why. Companies, people, entrepreneurs, the key is to focus on what is the one thing that you can win at? What is the thing that you do really well? What is something, a value you deliver better than everybody else? And stay focused on the core value that you are known for, that you are able to win at, and that you can consistently deliver. So what Priceline did over the years was say, there's this thing, discount air and hotel and car, but especially hotel was the growth. But there's this one specialized sort of niche thing that we do really, really well, and we're just going to stick with what we do and keep observing the value equation, right? It's counter-economical, meaning that for a company like Priceline that sells discount travel, when economies are down, people that used to pay full price, discount travelers grow, the market segment grows. So you get more people that kind of drift down into the discount buying that didn't used to buy discount. So that's why the company experiences a growth in tough economic times like now, because it delivers a value to a lot of people that need that value.
The other important role you're now playing as a senior entrepreneur is empowering entrepreneurship throughout the globe. And one good example is GST, you said. So I wanted to understand from you how the spread of entrepreneurship is actually going to help economies grow, not just in this country, but around the world.
Well, I'll tell you what really excites me right now. The governments, societies, everybody, the world has finally realized that all the new job growth and 80% of new job growth around the world is coming from startups, not from established companies. So people are finally, it's felt to me like it wasn't until last year that people all over the world said, okay, we get it. It's going to take startups are going to create jobs, create innovation, create value, stimulate economies, so we better find a way to help them. Because the entrepreneurs have been begging for help all along, but they didn't really get it. And now recently, I just came back from this Every Continent World Tour. I've been so excited about the fact that people all over the world, including governments, are saying, look, we got to help our entrepreneurs because they're going to create all the new jobs in our economy, or most of them. Very, very exciting.
How do you see the challenges being addressed differently? So, for example, Kenya versus Indonesia or India, for that matter, because you have a better understanding now.
Yes, there are places where, I'll give you an example. One of the hot spots in Africa, which is on the west side, I was recently in West, East, and North Africa, a little bit in South Africa, but an example was Ghana. And it turns out, like anything else in the world, the culture, the attitudes of the people there, it just seemed to me like they were more predisposed. I'm just giving a random example, than maybe even some of their neighbors because of their attitude. There were more people that said, I'll find a way and I think I can do this. And you go to some parts of the world and everybody's skeptical. So there's no doubt that there are cultural issues. In some places are more likely, but there are also enabling issues. There are countries where I said to people, why don't you launch this company? And they said literally, because if I fail, I go to jail, right? So there's a lot of factors from sort of DNA issues to government, tax, legal, employment law, a lot of issues. But if you add it all up, you could make a score sheet. Here's all the necessary conditions and factors for entrepreneurship to flourish. And some countries can just mark off 7 of the 10, and some countries can mark off 2. But I feel like everybody is finally addressing it, and it'll get better.
So as you said, mentorship is more important than funding. But in these countries, both of these things are lacking. I mean, they don't have the model of Silicon Valley. Even in Western Europe, most countries do not have the Silicon Valley style of funding, right? So how do you encourage funding to go to the entrepreneurs and mentorship?
So very interesting, because I had the same experience. I was in certain parts of the world where we would say, why don't you mentor these people? And I literally had somebody say to me, I said, why don't you help him? And he said, that's not my son. And I said, I don't think it's your son. And he said, then why would I help him? I'm not even related to him. And I said, he's trying to launch a business and he needs help. And he said, I don't own that business. And I said, wow, he just can't think of, culturally, there's no reason he would help anybody that isn't his family or isn't paying him. And I had to say, so to change the conversation, you should be a mentor, it didn't work. But what I said, I'll tell you where it was. I was in Algeria. And I said, do you care about the future of Algeria? Of course I do. Are you proud to be Algerian? Of course I am. Wouldn't you love to see Algeria be on the news as the birthplace of the next big company? Of course I do. I said, that might be him. And I said, so you need to help him to build the future of your country, to be proud of your country. So there are things they care about that they'll address, but it's not the path we're used to. There are a lot of cultures that, like you said, they're not predisposed to mentoring or even investing. In some countries, we had to explain the concept of a business angel because it just was foreign to them. But the good news is people are starting to get it. When you explain it to them and you introduce them, and I said, you guys live near each other, but I'm introducing you. I flew all the way across the globe to introduce you to your neighbor. But once you do, you know what the established businessman said to the young kid? He said, wow, you remind me of me when I was your age, and suddenly he got interested. So it needs a little pushing and shoving to get them together and talking about their lives a little bit, but it's possible.
See, one of the drawbacks there is failure is not an option for them, right? Here we celebrate failure as a next stepping stone. So how do you encourage through all these initiatives that you're involved in, especially the funding aspect of it? Are they trying to understand our model of funding?
You know, here's the thing that I always say. People for years ask me, what do you do? And I launch companies. Now people say, what do you do? And I say, I launch entrepreneurs. So what I've been trying to do is get some of these investors to realize that if you're considering every dollar you invest just an ROI on an investment in a company in a spreadsheet, it will never get anywhere. If you consider that some amount of money you invested in the entrepreneur, so the return is not measured necessarily it's not measured in things like sales, it's measured in things like confidence, self-esteem, willingness to try again, learning experiences. When you invest money in entrepreneurs, they will go off and build a better future. So I've been trying a lot to get in some of these cultures people to understand that the only way to invest in their future is to invest in their people, not just their companies. And that takes a little bit of doing. But I think it's a really important mission for everybody.
Finally, Jeff, in the culture that we're talking about, money is the most important thing in a business. Here we learn it's the passion that drives you, and money is a byproduct. How do you reverse this?
No, I think you're absolutely right, and it's really hard. And again, I think that the answer to your question is that's the importance of mentors again, is people that, so when I was young and thought that the scorecard was money and that's what everybody was working for, and I did that, nobody told me otherwise. And then I got there and found out that one, making a bunch of money created more problems. It doesn't solve them all. And making money is not bad. There's a lot of problems in the world that you can only solve if you're successful and make money. But if it's the only thing that drives you and gets you out of bed in the morning, it's an empty life. If somebody had told me that, I might have saved a lot of time. Later I found out that a purpose-driven life, that having a meaning, something to do with the money to help other people. You know, I one day it occurred to me, I started asking people, what do you want people to say about you? It's your funeral. What do you want people to say? What are people walking around your funeral saying? And it was interesting the responses people got. Because I said, if people said, wow, he had a really nice car, then your life was a waste. So somebody said, what do you want to be judged by? And I said, I'd like the measure of success to be how many other people's lives were made better because you were in them. Once I realized that I had a purpose, which was to try to improve other people's lives, which then it's okay to make money because that's part of the way you do that. But I had something to wake up for every single day. If somebody, so the answer to your question is, mentors who've been there, done that, learned that, need to share it with people and tell them. Don't just drive your life around a paycheck, drive your life around a purpose and help them find their purpose. I think a lot more people would be a lot happier and a lot more passionate about what they do.
On that high note, Jeff, thank you. Appreciate you sharing your.
Thank you for having me.